What's going on, guys? Alright, so we have a lot to cover on this week's episode of Samurai Jack. So we start off from where we left off last week, where Jack vanished, and it's up to Ashi to find him. So we find her on top of this blimp airplane thing, and we see these two giant creatures in robes try to attack her because they recognize her as being this assassin who is going to hurt the samurai. And they recognize her from, apparently they overheard a conversation with her talking about the samurai, so they knew that she was after him, and they're trying to protect him. Who are these two creatures? They are the two elephant mammoth creatures from the first season of Samurai Jack, the creatures that were being oppressed and being held captive by those space monkeys. So they are trying to protect the Samurai Jack, but Aishi tells him, no, I'm not trying to hurt him, I'm just trying to help find him because I think he might be in trouble. And they tell her the story of how he came and he saved them, and he's the sole reason as to why they were able to be freed. And she's realizing, so Jack is this hero. And the conductor of this blimp points out the window and says, I think I saw him go that way, and in that direction. And she goes, oh, okay, cool, and literally jumps out of the plane. And he's like, you're supposed to do that after we've landed. And then she falls down. And we see, because it cuts away, we see that Scaramouche is still alive. Thank God, because Scaramouche was an amazing character in the first episode, and I'm so happy to see that he's back. So he's hopping away on his head in hopes to tell Aku that Jack lost his sword. So now we're going to see Aishi, and she's going back through this little forest here. She sees those beetles that Jack fought from, again, the first season. And we see that they're being run out of town from the same people from season 1 who were those archers people from the top of the tower that were blind. They're those same people because these big guys, they were taken over by the pond in that lake to become the most powerful warriors, but they were taken over by it and they were possessed. But Jack, because of Jack, he they were freed from that curse. And she comes there to their little city, and she sees the statue of Jack that they've made, and they tell the story. We see a flashback, and they tell the story of how Jack sacrificed his wish in order to make sure that they were free, and that's why they built this thing after them. And she asks if they've seen him because she's still looking for him. They said they haven't seen him since that happened, since last they saw him, which is when they first met. So she says, all right, thanks, and she goes on her own way. Now we're cutting back, and Scaramouche has bounced his way to this little boat area, and we get a little bit of a gag here for probably about the next 10 minutes. It's this guy who won't let him in to this boat. It says no body, no clothes, no service, right? And so he's like, oh, okay, because he's just this bouncing head. And he's like, well, come on, I'm one of Aku's, top I'm Aku's number 1 top assassin. And then he points over to the list that's immediately next to the other one. It says, Aku's current top list of assassins, Deathblow, DeBomb, and Scaramouche is number 3. I love how the one below him is someone named Gentle Jim. You wouldn't be able to imagine that somebody who's an assassin's name would be Gentle Jim. I just think that's a little hilarious. But he's hurt. That he's number 3 out of Scaramouche's, or out of Aku's top assassins, and he says, well, I'll be number 1 once I tell Aku that Jack has lost his sword. But he really needs to get on this boat. So what he tries to do is he tries to sneak in various different ways. He tries hiding in this one lady's wig, doesn't work. He tries to become the head of this, he tries to latch onto this dog to become its head and try to walk in, but there's a sign that says no dogs allowed. Finally ends up getting in by attaching his head to the body of this other guy. And it's funny that we get a really funny scene here because this guy's head is really tiny and it's really but it is really long. And he takes Scaramouche's head off after they finally gotten on board. And he's like, hey, where's my 50 credits? And Scaramouche says, I don't have it on me now, but I'm good for it. Once I tell Aku, he'll give me anything I want. And he says, yeah, right, and walks away. Scaramouche starts whistling for a little bit, and then Scaramouche says, my God, that guy looked horrible. He literally looked like a talking penis. We haven't heard a dirty joke like that in a Cartoon Network show, and that's I think that's kind of funny. So Ashi is still walking, and we see that she finds the group of raving people. And she ends up getting a spotlight shined on her after she mentions Samurai Jack, and the head person there, who is actually the daughter of that guy, because if you guys remember this raving episode, the father was crying, and he was like, Jack was trying to figure out what was wrong. He's like, oh, my daughter has been going to these raves, and I haven't seen her forever. And so it was because the rave had like some mystical power that was taking them all under control and making them all want to go there. But it seems that the daughter has grown older and has become actually the DJ and the head of this little rave club. So, Aisha says, hey, I need to find the samurai. And they all, lift their hands up into the skies, and they do these things with their hands that make an S in the sky. And they play a song, just talking about the samurai and what the samurai did. And she ends up, it's funny because they end up having like this little choreography going with the little rave dance, and she ends up dancing with them. Like, she caught on pretty fast to the dance moves. But yeah, she finally is learning that, Jack is the savior and Aku is actually, the bad person. So she keeps walking away, and she ends up having a flashback of this little lava pit that her mother literally made her strip down and jump into this like lava ash pit, and just burn and just help raise her durability up. So what she ends up doing is she ends up removing her assassin clothing, because I'm sure she deems it as disrespectful now that she knows, and she ended up going into the river and washing her hair, making it lower, and she ended up making her own clothes out of the leaves and things she found in the forest, and she ended up changing her hair. She actually looks pretty good now, like, I'm not gonna lie. So we cut away, and Scaramouche is on the boat again, and this girl passes by, and he's like, hey babe, how about a refreshment? And she goes, I don't work here, and even if I did, I wouldn't want to serve you. And she kicks him away. He's flying, and he ends up crashing up against the wall, and he finds a phone booth, and he's hoping to call Aku. He actually does call Aku, but Aku can't hear him because of all the noises on the boat. So Scaramouche walks out of the phone booth and says, hey guys, quiet it down. And they turn around, and it's a bunch of dogs. And it's funny, if you look at this, the one on the right is without a doubt the dog from the Jetsons. I can't remember his name. I do not remember his name. He was also Dynomutt, if you guys remember that cartoon. But yeah, he is actually one of the dogs, which I think is hilarious. The middle one could be theorized as maybe Spike from Tom and Jerry, but that may be a little bit of a stretch. The other dog on the left doesn't really look familiar, unless that could be the dog from Two Stupid Dogs, which it could be. Which, that would be interesting, now that I think about it. Because now that I'm looking at him, that kind of does look like the dog from Two Stupid Dogs. Comment down below, do you guys think that the dog on the left is the big dog from Two Stupid Dogs? And do you guys think the dog on the right is from the Jetsons? And could the one in the middle really be Spike from Tom and Jerry? You guys let me know in the comment section down below. But anyway, he tells them, and he says, hey, stop all your barking, because I'm trying to make a very important phone call. And the spike-looking dog grabs his head and says, if someone like you had a body, I'd have ripped his head off. But because your head is already ripped off, and then he just kicks him in the river. So we cut back to Aishi trying to find Samurai Jack, and she ends up entering this bar. We find the samurai, the guy who called himself the samurai. He was the black guy from, I think, the 3rd season, or maybe it was the 4th season, who called himself, the most badass samurai ever, or whatever. And Jack ended up showing him up because this guy wasn't really that good at all. So she goes up and she says, have you heard of the samurai? And he says, what? I can't hear you. And she goes, I'm here to look for the samurai. Have you heard of him? And he still can't hear her. And so she starts yelling at the top of her lungs, the samurai, I'm looking for the samurai. And then that's finally when everyone in the bar comes up and is like, you're looking for the samurai, you're such a pipsqueak, you wouldn't survive against the samurai. This guy in a big suit of armor says, look what he did to me. He lifts up his helmet and he's just nothing but almost like rubber strings. And then this other guy is covered in band-aids and he says, I fought the samurai and the only reason why I'm even put together like this is because of these band-aids. And then one of the guys just peels it off and makes him fall apart. And then there's a robot that looks like Popeye and even sounds like Popeye. So they're doing a lot of callbacks to classic cartoons in this episode. But yeah, he tells her the story of how he used to be the samurai and how Jack showed him the right way and blah, 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 blah. Bursting through the door as he's telling this story is that one demon that Aku hired to take out Jack. If you remember, I forget his name. He says it in here, but I think it's like Demon Ghoul or something like that. Demon Ghoul or something. But he ends up coming in there looking for the strongest warriors to take their souls or whatever. And then everyone turns around and he says, well, I guess I'm in the wrong place. She walks out and she finds this very short creature that has the voice of Mandy from Billy and Mandy. And I'm not entirely sure who this is. I don't really remember any creature like this from the first series. Comment down below if you can recognize who this character is, because I marathoned the whole series before watching this, but I don't remember a character that looked like that. Well, she points him in the way and says, you're looking for the samurai? He's an hour that way. And she looks over and then she turns back and she's gone. So she walks over and to this cemetery and she sees Jack. But Jack is surrounded by these spirits, and these spirits are telling her, you can't come any further, that you can watch, but, you can't come any further. She says, watch what? And they tell her that basically Jack has, he's dishonored himself, he's dishonored his family, he's, not done what he came here to do. There's no hope left, and he's got to, kill himself, which is what was speculated from a lot of people last week once they saw his position how he was sitting. Everyone was saying, he's got to kill himself, which is what we've been getting hints of, having seen this horse guy in the background. But she ends up trying to convince Jack not to do it. She says, look, I've seen what you've done. I've seen the change that you've caused to people, and even look at me, I've seen the change that you've caused to me. And while all this is happening, this creature, this ghost guy is trying to kill her, trying to shut her up, trying to, saying, oh, you can't stop this. This is already happening. He's going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, she's about to get struck down by this guy's sword. Jack jumps in at the last minute and blocks it with his own sword, and he ends up slicing the ghost in half, and is just basically like, you're right. Thank you for proving me wrong, that, I need to stop, I need to get myself out of this rut, and I need to do what I can to help save the past. And he even says, I need to get my sword back. I need to get my sword back. So that's what's going to happen this week. He's going to go and he's going to go get his sword back, and I couldn't be more excited, because apparently he's going to be doing a lot of meditating, and I think what he's doing next week, because we saw from the preview, is he's going to be trying to look back in his past and try to, remember where his sword had gone. But, I don't know. Anyways, guys, comment down below and let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode. I loved it, and I couldn't be more excited for next week. So go ahead and comment down below and let me know what you think, and like always, I'll catch you next week. Bye.